Your power goes out, remember just how inconvenient your life can be. No lights, no refrigeration, no heating or cooling, no electronics. But with a Generac home standby generator, you'll have power when you need it. Our Generac generators automatically provide backup power after sensing a power outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Get a free 10-year warranty with the purchase of any air-cooled generator. Call Generac Generators today. Generac Generators. Life is primitive without power.
Streaming from the Tampa Bay 28 Weather Center in Studio A. This is Dennis Phillips Live. Sponsored by Generac Generators. Life is primitive without power. And Total Air.
How you doing, everybody? It is a Friday night edition of Dennis Phillips Live. Welcome to the show. And you may be wondering what we have right here. Now, y'all know there is history to Godzilla in this show. And you know this because if you're new to the show, you're not part of the OG group. Let me explain. Back in the day when we started doing this, gosh, maybe 20 years ago, we were doing this stuff way before Facebook Live ever became a thing. And we used a forum called Procaster to stream this on the web. And more often than not, my lips would not sync with the sound that people were seeing on the stream. And we dubbed that Godzilla, because when you would be watching a Godzilla movie, as y'all know, the lips and the sound, if you were watching an English dub version, were not the same thing. So I've always been a huge Godzilla guy. Loved Godzilla -1. That was, more of a classic artsy kind of won an Oscar actually last year. But, I date back to the old days, back with Baby Godzilla, where he did the little rings when Godzilla stepped on his tail. Mama Godzilla, or would it be Mama or Father? It's got.
Not sure. But we used to call him Godzuki or something.
Yeah, Godzuki. Yeah. We're gonna talk about that coming up in a minute. And there's a reason. There's a method to this madness. But yeah, Baby Godzilla. When I think it was Daddy. Maybe, I don't know. Josh, was Godzilla a boy or a girl? No idea. Josh thinks it's a girl. All right, so we'll say Mama Godzilla. If it was Mama Godzilla trying to teach Baby Godzilla to do the big fire thing, and Baby Godzilla would only do donut holes, like little donuts. So, not donut holes, donuts. So what did Godzilla do? Godzilla stomped on Baby Godzilla's tail, and he went, ah! And then there was a big old thing of fire that went out. So I'm telling you, I remember these because I loved Godzilla movies. I did. Well, we have a Godzilla here, and this one you can pull on. This is a collectible. And the reason we say this is because there is a big collectible expo coming up this Sunday in Lakeland at the RP Funding Center. Same place that I was at last week for the hurricane special for the United Way of Central Florida, the Hurricane Expo. And back there again this coming Sunday with collectibles. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to go over and we're going to show you some of these collectibles. And this is really cool because if you like yard sailing, and if you like going to estate sales, and if you like Comic-Con, and if you like looking for a deal and hoping, hey, maybe I'm going to find something that's going to be really valuable, it's kind of an interesting story about how one collects these, what you go about to find them. And again, this coming Sunday if you're in the market for collectibles, we're going to talk about it coming in a couple minutes. We're getting into weather, but you go early. And apparently some people even come up like really early and hide out, the early birds. And I think everybody knows, if you've ever put together a garage sale, and I've done garage sales forever, and you always have those early birds. And some people even put on the sign, no early birds. So then the people kind of hide out. You know, they're like, all right, because they want to be first in line, because they want to run through everything and see if they find that collectible, that valuable collectible. So we're going to talk about that coming up in a couple of minutes. But before we get that, we got some weather to talk about. There's been so much buzz. You know, I'm scrolling through, and by the way, it's nice to see that your comments are now scrolling on Facebook again. It was clearly not a Dennis thing. It was a Facebook thing, because for the last 6 weeks, comments would not scroll on Facebook. And I know a lot of folks at home were saying the same thing. Now, they would on our phones, but they would not on the PCs. But as of yesterday, it started working again. So Teddy remembers the tiny smoke rings from Baby Godzilla, and her husband loved those movies. How you doing, Viv? Good to see you. So Marlene, I think it's Marlene. Yeah, Marlene said, I recall a Godzilla movie with Raymond Burr in Japan. Yes, it was. Raymond Burr. Those were some classic movies. But we're not just talking Godzilla. We're talking about all sorts of collectibles. I'm looking over there, and I'm seeing some Cabbage Patch dolls, and I'm seeing some Star Wars stuff. And so we're going to get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and jump into the forecast, because I want to give you the weekend weather and answer any questions that you might have. Kathy, how you doing? Good to see you. I don't know what my favorite Godzilla. Let me tell you, I loved Godzilla -1. I really did. I mean, it wasn't a classic Godzilla movie by any stretch. It was, you know, current, obviously. But they're making a new one. In fact, it comes out later this year, and I saw the trailer for it, and I cannot remember what it's called. But yeah, there's a new Godzilla movie from the same director who made Godzilla -1. And this is, and so anyway, what you see in the trailer, it's more of a teaser. It's not even a trailer. You see Godzilla, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden you see him towering, or her, and I'm Googling that, right over the Statue of Liberty. So you literally see Godzilla in New York City. Is Godzilla, hold on, stand by. Actually, let me just ask my phone. Let me ask my phone. Because people want to know, and even if they don't, I do. All right. Is Godzilla a male or female? Godzilla does not have a biological sex in the traditional sense. The character is almost universally referred to as a male in English-speaking media and holds the official king of the monsters. So I think Godzilla's a guy. Sorry, Josh. Josh's like, All right. Anyway, all right, let's jump on back. So quick look at the forecast. All right, there's a look at radar. All's good. Couple of showers down south. Now, we were having the discussion of late, Ryan, as well as Anna Maria. And you've heard me being very vocal about the fact that I'm like, look, this is not the rainy season. The rain that we had 2 weeks ago is not rainy season rain. Rainy season rains are created literally just without any other environmental conditions needed to be present. You don't need a front. You don't need tropical moisture. It is self-sustaining because of the heat of the water and the heating of the atmosphere and whatever the prevailing wind pattern is. Clearly, the last couple of days, we've had drier air come into the area. And while there might be a few showers down south, that's about it. Historically, if you look at the climate data for our area, Southwest Florida, Naples gets the rainy season toward the end of May. Our area is more the mid to latter portions of June and really kind of cranking up as we go into July and August. So David's like Godzilla and Star Wars. Yeah, we're going to be talking Star Wars stuff too. Anyway, temperatures right now mid to upper 80s. This morning, beautiful. Lower 60s northern counties, low to mid 70s across the rest of the area. Inland areas, Polk County, 64 and 68 in Bartow and Lakeland, respectively. There's a look at the high temperatures today, upper 80s to lower 90s. Yes, Anna Maria, yes, here we go. Because you guys were giving me a lot of flack. Oh, it's the rainy season. No, it really wasn't. And the proof is in the atmosphere the last few days. But that's okay. I appreciate your loyalty anyway. There's a look at the Rivergate Tower looking down to the south. Blue skies, drier air aloft and at the surface for that matter. And we've talked about this a million times. Look at the low humidity. It's why it was so cool this morning, and it's why it's going to be so warm this weekend. The drier the air, the colder or the hotter it can be. Think about it. The desert's hottest place on Earth. Antarctica, the Arctic, coldest places on Earth because the air is so dry. So when we have low dew points and drier air comes in, not only does it limit our rain chances, but it also increases the afternoon highs and decreases the morning lows. Easterly wind, if this were the rainy season, this easterly wind would give us a really good chance of afternoon and evening storms. But because we are lacking the moisture, we're not going to see much. Maybe an isolated shower in a couple of spots. That is about it. So, oh yeah, Tom, I had a good chance to talk with the folks at Feeding Tampa Bay. It was a nice podcast. We had a good time. So there's a look at Sunday morning. I do think whatever your plans are this weekend, if you want to go to the beach or the pool, I think you'll see more sunshine on Saturday, a few more clouds on Sunday, but either way, the rain chances remain extraordinarily low. So there's a look at your high temperatures, mid to upper 90s into the early part of next week as that drier air comes in. However, by the middle of the week, moisture returns, not rainy season moisture per se, but potentially some tropical moisture in the Gulf. And that is what we've been talking about. The models have been pretty bullish on showing the potential for some development. And that would not shock anybody. There's the month of June. Historically, the Gulf is a really active spot. Almost always, you're talking a weak, ragged system. You're talking some rain, and we need the rain, right? But the Hurricane Center right now is saying, nope, no development over the next week, and I'm inclined to agree with them. But if something does develop, so here's what goes on this time of the year. In Central America, you have a monsoonal flow. In other words, a change in wind direction that can bring moisture and increase the moisture content. And every now and again, you can get some development. It's not all that unusual. That would go from Central America into the Gulf. That can happen. And if you look at the models, they are showing just that. All right, so here's a look at the Euro next week. And this is through next Thursday. This is through next Friday. This is through next Saturday. These are the ensembles, and they are showing the potential of a depression forming. Whatever forms it, now whether it goes west, some of the Euro ensembles are bringing it west, some are bringing it north, some are bringing it east. It's too early to tell. But at the end of the day, and I'm going to be very, very clear on this, I don't think this poses any threat as an organized tropical system to the state of Florida. If this were to develop into kind of a messy rainmaker, I think it's more likely it would impact the northern Gulf Coast. It's that simple. Next week, we'll watch it, keep our eyes on it. We're hoping as a ragged system, it stays about 150 miles offshore of Florida because we would be on the wet side. It would be a kind of a wobble, if you will, and a lopsided system, and the east side is typically the wet side, which would bring more rain. But it is very conceivable this could stay well west of Florida and give us no impact whatsoever. So let's recap with the 7-day, all right? So here's a look at the 7-day. Rain chances remain less than 10% through the weekend. Highs low to mid-90s, a little more sunshine on Saturday than on Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the moisture begins to increase a bit. Humidity rolls back in by the middle of the week, and then in toward next weekend, depending on whether or not that system actually develops or not, our rain chances could go up. But officially, the NHC is saying no development over the next 7 days. I am saying no development over the next 7 days. The models are saying maybe within a week you could be looking at a depression or a weak system. But regardless, in my opinion, worst case scenario is a disorganized, ragged system bringing rain somewhere along the northern Gulf Coast. And there you have it in a nutshell. That is the forecast. I'll be answering questions about whatever you want coming up after we do our next segment, and we are talking about the Expo. So let's go ahead and take our other shot as I pick up Godzilla here and bring Godzilla over. Here we go. Who do we have over here? Thank you very much, by the way, for waiting so
problem.
patiently.
No problem.
And what's your name?
Jeff Davis.
Jeff, very nice to
Yeah,
see you here. Where do you want me to put Godzilla?
Oh, you can set him over there.
We can put him right here. Is he gonna? He
Still in
might
the
be.
shot
Yeah, that's
there.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jeff, this is some. Okay, I'm old, so I recognize all this stuff, but I'm not really. I'm more of a sports,
Okay.
sports memorabilia guy. So what's coming up? I mean, just looking here, you've got. It looks like vinyl. It looks like Boston over there.
Yeah.
Their original mega album
Yeah.
that everybody loved back there with Don't Look Back and whatnot.
Yeah, they're grading these now, like putting them in plexiglass. People.
Like baseball cards.
Yeah.
So are they grading the quality of the vinyl or the,
Yeah,
the cover
this is like
or
a
what?
sealed. This is still a sealed vinyl record, and they're grading like how
There you go.
how nice the cardboard is, or
Who
you
are
know, and
these
all that.
graders, and can they
This
be brought?
this company is actually based in Florida.
Okay.
So it's a recognized company on eBay and stuff, actually. So
So tell us about the event on Sunday, and then we'll kind of talk more about these and how this kind of stuff becomes a collectible. And I'm so curious about all this stuff. I really am.
right. So this is our seventh year. In 2019 was our first year. I went to Tampa Bay Comic-Con and there wasn't a lot of toys to buy. And I was looking for some Transformers and Star Wars stuff. And so I decided to go ahead and just do a show. And I live in Lakeland, from Lakeland, and we started in a small building, and then we've been at RP Funding Center for the last 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when exactly is the event? What time?
It's on Sunday the 7th. Starts at 9, ends at 4.
Okay.
And like you were talking about, kind of the early bird people, they come in right at 9 to get some of this stuff. This is just a smidgen of what we'll have. It's all toys too, or it's all toys and games. Things that you see here, dolls. There'll be some Godzilla stuff. There'll be some GI Joe stuff. There'll be dolls and everything else.
Now, how do the collectors get this in the first place?
I think most of them either maybe they've brought it down with them.
So they as a child or whatever?
Yeah, or they have it, and like, for instance, people's parents will call and say, hey, we're moving out of the house that we had that you grew up in, and the stuff that's in the attic needs to go. So then they call up somebody else, or they'll reach out to us and we'll connect them to a vendor of ours to buy their collection.
So when people go to events like you've got going
Yeah.
on Sunday, I'm guessing everybody who's a vendor there knows the value of everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
a lot of people might go to garage sales thinking they might find a diamond in a rough, something that people don't know it's worth as much. That's
Right.
not what this is. These
Yeah,
people
no,
pretty
that's
much
not
know.
what this is. This is more like, people have stuff, they have tables of stuff, and a lot of times they're focused on whatever they like. For instance, there'll be a Barbie section, there'll be several vendors with just Barbie. That's what they sell. Same thing with Hot Wheels or Lego, or there'll be somebody that has like a lot of different things. But it's really a treasure hunt, really. But everything has a value. It's not like let's say like a Goodwill type, which people still find stuff at Goodwill, but just not as much as they used to.
And the value, I guess, is we were talking about, can you bargain with stuff? And I guess it all depends on how valuable it is for what you want.
Yeah, like, so for example, a Godzilla like that could go, that's from 77, can go range between anywhere. If it was broken or whatever, it could be $100, but that right there is probably in the $400 range.
And he actually said that his arm,
yeah, with the button there,
his button
it springs off.
shoots out like Rockin' Sock'n Robots.
Yeah, and it's a Shogun Warrior Godzilla actually from 77.
Yeah. So, all right. So
Yeah.
Cabbage Patch. I remember when Cabbage Patch dolls were a big thing.
Yeah, this here is a box from that era, from
Okay.
that time frame, and then we have a couple loose dolls.
And so I mean, you're going to find, if someone's at home and they have a collection of them, this is the kind of show that would be good for them. People aren't looking to, now do some of these vendors, do they buy from people as well?
So usually we don't let people come in with wagons and stuff, but because you have a phone now and everything, if you're looking to sell something, vendors, you can talk to them. They're always looking for leads on new inventory. because we do multiple shows. This one is our home show in Lakeland, but we do shows all over the state of Florida. So.
All right, I'm gonna tell you, I've never done this before, nor have I ever said this before.
Okay.
But I have David Letterman used to do a thing called Stupid Human Tricks.
Yeah.
And I was a member. This is Steve Austin.
Yes, yeah.
I was a member of the Steve Austin fan club.
Yeah.
Because it was like when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever it was. I can recite the entire opening of the $6 Million Man TV show, and I'm not just talking about the Steve Austin astronaut man barely alive. I'm talking about from the beginning of the rocket crashing to everything. And I do it to my kids sometimes. They just roll their eyes at me. But this was my show. But I never had any of the collectibles. Matter of fact, on this show, when I imitate Jason Adams, engineer Jason Adams, when he's coming in here frantically because something's going wrong, I say he's like Steve Austin, and he comes in with which is what this character did. Right. So you've got Steve Austin. You also, what about video games?
Yeah, so video games,
like
physical media is really coming back. That's a huge section of our show. Now, this is an older game that's complete, and then, they're grading those also. So just things have exploded,
You know what else is funny? So I used to love playing Dance Revolution, DDR, and it was on the PlayStation 2. And I just noticed recently, and we went and bought some of the, they were, they sell the plastic mats that you do the steps on. But I remember buying on eBay homemade giant, like really heavy duty mats. And that's something that I loved. And I noticed it on eBay, but are those the kind of things that you might also find?
You'll have those things.
Or Guitar Hero stuff?
Yeah, the Guitar Hero stuff.
Love Guitar Hero.
Or older Nintendo, the guns things, or controllers, or oddball stuff. There's just, there's all kinds of stuff. It's just, most of this stuff is all, I'm going to call it, Gen X kind of group. Some people come in, they think it's going to be an antique, 50s or something. It's not that.
You know what we used to do during hurricane season? So when we would cover storms, my boss is probably watching, whatever. So when we were covering storms, I used to bring Guitar Hero in here and hook it up to the big monitors.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and then when we were, Josh was like, and when we weren't on the air, but we were in commercial breaks, because we were here like 30 straight hours. I think I did it with Charlie, actually. Yeah. And we're over here playing Guitar Hero, waiting for the next commercial break to end or whatever. So those games bring some wonderful memories for me. And my guess is there's a lot of other people out there that feel the same way. So for folks who are collectibles, folks who really love, you got comic books too, and I would guess comic books are a tricky thing, because there's stores out there that just comic books.
But what we have is, there'll be, those stores will come to our show and trade, or they'll buy, because the vendors, again, depending on what it is, they're going to be flexible. The vendors at our show, they want to sell the stuff. They're not looking to put it on eBay. There's a lot of there's risk involved, and there's fees and all of that stuff. Right. This is something where the person, a lot of these guys aren't businesses. They're just people that they have a collection, they want to get rid of it, so they'll set up a couple times when we're in their town or something, and they'll be able to sell their stuff. So they don't want anymore, they'll be able to buy something else.
Well, remind folks again how to get there, what the time is, and give a kind of an overview of maybe some of the things that maybe aren't here that they might still see as well. Okay.
Well, it's again at RP Funding Center this Sunday, June 7th. Opens at 9, closes at 4, and that's and then we'll have pretty much all this kinds of stuff plus a lot more. So like, I don't have Ninja Turtles with the He-Man movie that just came out today. There's going to be a bunch of Motu stuff, Master Universe stuff. So I don't have any of that stuff.
More vinyls. Every one of my kids.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I brought this. Is that there's going to be at least 2 vinyl vendors there that sell all kinds of vinyl. CDs are coming back too, and we have posters like older music posters. There's somebody that has like concert passes and all those things, all kinds of stuff. Not a lot of. We do have some sports cards. We do have cards. I didn't bring them out, but like you'll have like, you know, some sports cards, and then you'll have some other cards like the movie cards, the stickers, and you know, wrestling. Oh, I don't have wrestling figures in here.
But that'll be there as well.
Well, yeah, we'll have wrestling figures, some vintage and new stuff.
I was talking to my daughter last week. We were talking about posters.
Yeah.
And I was relaying what my room looked like in high school with posters, and we were talking about this. The Farrah Fawcett poster, the one where
Yeah.
she was in the red one piece, is
Yeah.
the best-selling and we Googled it, is the best-selling poster of all time.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, think about it. I mean, if you were
Yeah.
back in that era, that was the poster. And I remember in my room, so I had Farrah Fawcett, I had Secretariat, which is interesting, and I had Burt Jones, who was a quarterback for the Baltimore Colts, not the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Colts.
Right.
But I mean, those posters, and every now and again you run into those at garage sales, but you don't see them very often.
No.
So if you're into collectibles, that sounds like this
Yeah.
weekend is your weekend in
Yeah.
Lakeland at the RP Funding Center from 9 to 4, you said?
Yeah, 9 to 4.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much
Well,
for
thank you
coming
for
out.
having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you for
obviously
having us.
lots of Star Wars stuff too.
Yes, lots of figures, you know, on the card, vehicles, and G.I. Joe also. I didn't bring a lot of G.I. Joe, but pretty much all of the gamut, you know. But we do have, some people think it's just a guy's show, and you know, my wife collects and stuff, so there's definitely
You know,
Barbie and all that.
The first action figure I ever had, and no one's ever heard of this, it was called Major Matt Mason.
Yeah.
And it was, I think I was in kindergarten in Seattle, and I've never ever seen it or heard about it
We've
since.
had a few of those.
Have you really?
We've
Probably
had,
worth $1
and
million
there's
now, and
entire
I'm just
sets of that actually.
Are there really?
I was in Georgia, and they had like the play sets and everything at another
Major Matt
show.
Mason. That's
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
We haven't
So-
had a lot of them, but you know, we haven't had that before.
So, well, whatever your interest,
Monster
again.
stuff,
Oh,
like
yeah.
monsters, you know, the Universal monsters.
Yep.
We get that stuff. We get all kinds of the stuff, but it's all toys, games, and comic related items.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming out. I appreciate it. Good
All right,
luck
thank you.
on Sunday.
Thank you.
So we're going to go on back over here and finish up a little bit with answering some of your questions, as well as a quick little overview. I did not give you the model data changes. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, that does sound like a lot of fun, because I shudder to think how many baseball cards I had that were so valuable, because I was a kid back in the Nolan Ryan days, and I was a baseball card fanatic. And I'm sure I took some incredibly valuable cards and put them on the spokes of my bicycle, and as we did with clothespins, and made the cool sound and gave away tens of thousands of dollars because I didn't have any idea they were going to be valuable. So anyway, let's go on back real quick and look at some of the model data. And then I'm going to watch a basketball game, because we got the Knicks and the Spurs coming up, my friends. All right, so there's a look at, again, we showed you the Euro. These are the ensemble runs. So you got maybe a little bit of moisture crossing over from the Pacific. It's certainly a possibility, but most of that action is the Central America gyre rather. And you go see how, you know, that's an interesting kind, because some people call it Euro and some people call it gyros. It's kind of the same thing with the gyro, or the gyro, located in Central America. I've heard it both ways. But anyway, there's a look at, notice the Euro. Some of the ensemble runs are going west, some are going north. But all this blue color all this does is indicate there's about a 30% chance of a tropical depression in that area over the next 7 to 10 days. A depression is probably exactly what the doctor ordered, to be honest. It is really, really what we need. So Charlotte asked for the new drought numbers. Ask and ye shall receive, Charlotte. I will pop those back up. And they don't look much different, but all right. So here they are. Go ahead and call them up. Right here. Streamers are going to be gone in 30 seconds, but there's the drought numbers. They're a little bit better inland, but west of I-75, they are still very, very extreme drought with no changes at all. So again, the GFS is bringing a ragged system. It has weakened it quite a bit now. That's more realistic. I think by the end of next week, there will be something in the Gulf. Whether it's organized or not, it doesn't matter. A weak, ragged rainmaker for part of the Gulf Coast. And we'll be tracking it, as always, early next week on our next edition of Dennis Phillips Live. Okay, streamers are out. We are still hot. And Yeah, David, no such thing. That is a, how do I put this? How do I say this nicely? That's just not a thing. It's just a marketing thing it's just not a thing. The only way you can track wobbles is by visually tracking wobbles, because even though weebles wobble but they don't fall down, hurricanes wobble, and it pretty much is impossible to forecast where that wobble is going to be. That is the nature. That is when I say you take the models out. Instead of, what you do is you look out the window instead. No, wait a minute, what was my expression? Oh, I got it. That is when you throw the models out the window and look out the window. Because when you are, it's called nowcasting. So when you actually are looking at a hurricane or a tropical storm or whatever has a center of circulation that is visible via satellite or radar, those wobbles, you cannot forecast where those wobbles are going to happen. You simply can't. There's not a tool on earth that is able to do that. But when you nowcast, you see them happening, and then you see a trend that can occur. And when that happens, that is absolutely a thing. We are still very, very dry, Kim. You know, it's the counties lift those burn bans. The counties lift those burn bans, not NOAA. They do use some NOAA data, but the counties ultimately do what they do. Cruz Mike, how you doing? Those Carolina Hurricanes came back from the dead last night, Mike. You guys were just dead. And then all of a sudden you got those 2 goals, you took the lead, you blew it, and then won it in OT. What an exciting game, which you were able to see on our ABC channel, which is the exact same spot that you will be able to see the next game in the Spurs game tonight. So again, there's the drought numbers. As I said, west of I-75, it is still an extreme drought, a little bit better in areas off to the east. All right, let's go ahead and look at the GFS quickly and the Euro. Here it is. So this is the GFS, all right? And the one thing you're going to notice, this is Sunday, this is Monday, this is Tuesday, not much going on. By the middle of next week, there you see it. Now remember, the GFS yesterday brought a hurricane into Florida, and we ridiculed it. Well, now the GFS is taking a more ragged system, more toward the northern Gulf. And if we're on the east side of that, that is a good thing, because that would give us much better chance of rain. But there is absolutely the possibility we will get nothing out of this if it stays just to the west. But that's the GFS. I'm going to look at the 18Z coming up in a minute, though. But here's the Euro. The Euro, instead of bringing stuff into the northern Gulf, I showed you the Euro ensemble. It's got a mixture of both, but its deterministic model is now more west into the Bay of Campeche. See it right there? But that's just this single run, and it's much better to look at the ensembles, and the ensembles show it could really go anywhere from the Bay of Campeche all the way up to the Big Bend. That is kind of where the best odds are. And what is it? A weak, ragged, possible tropical system that's just going to bring some rain, and that's about it. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing. Zero. All right? Lastly, in terms of rain this weekend, here's a look at the Euro. There's tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Still got an easterly flow, but because it's not really the rainy season per se, there's not a lot of moisture with it yet. There's Sunday, still not much. Saturday and Sunday mostly dry, but there will be some clouds out there, even more so on Sunday. A little bit more moisture rolls in by Tuesday. There's Tuesday afternoon, 2 o'clock. There's Tuesday night. That's a little bit better. And then Wednesday, a little bit better. That's Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. Easterly flow, much better chance of rain. Thursday, then we start looking out to the west. You still have some, now that is moisture coming in from the southeast, but getting much closer to what we would call the rainy season rain, but still not there, because it's still drawing in some moisture from the south. Then we start looking at what's out there in the Gulf. But yes, definitely rain chances, and that's next Sunday. So we're in a dry stretch through the middle of the week, and then I think we are looking at a much better chance of rain. All right? All right, guys. So, hey, did you see our new Met who was in today? Brittany? Brittany did an amazing job. She was here on DPL a couple of weeks ago. She was on air this morning and this afternoon, rather, and she did an amazing job. So I'm going to go watch some basketball and eat some dinner. You guys have I'm working on Sunday, so Jason is off for his birthday. He always takes his birthday week off. So Elizabeth is in tomorrow morning. Brittany's in tomorrow night. Greg is in Sunday morning, and I'm in Sunday night. So we have one person per shift. The only person who's off this weekend is Allie. It's her anniversary with her boyfriend, and she wanted to celebrate. So I'm like, I take the day off. So, so that's it, guys. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday on our next edition of Dennis Phillips Live. See you guys.